What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 105 brawlers in the game right now, from the very worst all the way up to the very best in a tier list. So my last tier list was a little bit of a prediction tier list because I was going away for a long time, so I had to get it out quickly. There were a few things wrong, but most things did line up pretty well. But there also were some balance changes a week after that video, so this is after the balance changes which hit like 20 days ago or so, which shifted the meta a little bit. So this tier list has been done through a lot of pro scrim data, a lot of ranked data, you know, me playing a lot of ranked myself, watching a bunch of stars competitive, and pro opinions as well. So there's a lot that goes into this tier list. And let's just start off with the F tier. So starting off with the worst brawler in the game, which is clearly Mr. P. Again, like you guys, I'll go into it a little bit later on, but Mr. P is quite clearly the worst brawler inside of the game right now. It takes so long to get his super. His hyper charge isn't even that good anymore. He has no damage. He's terrible. Next in the F tier, it's quite easy to say that Grom is a terrible brawler. Again, for the casuals, probably isn't going to be the worst brawler. Same with Mr. P. But in pro play, in scrims, he was used, I think, like 10 times and didn't win a single time. Grom's only really picked in super niche situations, and still then, you'd rather just go with a different control brawler, thrower, etc. Sam is next in the F tier. So there are some niche situations for Sam, but it's just far too risky to use right now. With Sam, he's just so predictable. The only saving grace with him is if he's got a Ruffs that can, you know, give Sam constant hypercharge supers, but he's rather just a more consistent brawler to pair up with Ruffs with. So yeah, Sam is just too easy to kill. Jackie's next, and she recently received a health buff, but I don't think the health buff is really going to do all that much. So I don't know why she got that health nerf to begin with. Maybe because at lower ranks she might have been destroying the meta, who really knows at this point, but she's still F tier with the buff. She just gets outclassed by so many different brawlers. Next for the F tier, I went with Tick. So this is probably the first time in Tick's history that he's in the F tier in my tier list. It's the worst he's ever been. With Tick, he's just so easy to pressure. He's hardly got any good matchups, and you're probably wondering, well, Tick, he's okay at my trophy range or my ranked, but I think even for the casuals, Tick isn't in a good spot right now. He just doesn't have any real purpose inside of this meta. Gets overwhelmed so easily, and he's the third least played brawler in pro scrims right now. So he's been trending down for a long while now. He was D tier a month ago. Now he's easily F tier. I went with Primo. So there are a few niche situations for Primo when you need to counter a specific tank or something, but that's only really in Brawl. And I still think there's way better options out there. He just really lacks the damage in a 1 versus 1. But yeah, F tier brawlers in the meta. Now moving on to your D tier brawlers in the meta. So D tier often means that they might excel in one game mode maybe, or excels maybe like a last pick, or in some niche situations. Start off with Chuck. So Chuck absolutely is still one of the best brawlers inside of Heist. He can still get countered by the pros, but you end up just banning him out because he's pretty frustrating to face off against. But again, elsewhere, he's just terrible. Daryl is next in the D tier, so I do love a good Daryl last pick when it's a few different heist maps, or mainly in particular knockout, but you don't really see these opportunities happen too often nowadays with Daryl. He's really getting power crap. Now moving on to Miko. So Miko's an easy D tier for me. His only saving grace is that pit stop is in the competitive map rotation right now. I don't think it's in the ranked one, but Miko's literally like the best pick there. But elsewhere, he's only really like a late pick heist option. He might have some okay synergies with like kits, but he's far too risky as a standalone brawler. His literally only objective is to jump on top of the heist. Rose is in the D tier, so she's only really a good slimy last pick when there's not any like wall breaks or big damage dealers on the enemy team. Then sometimes you just pick Rosa to create some chaos, but that's about it. Shelly's next in the D tier, so I believe she received a couple of buffs with the update a month ago, but that didn't really make too much of a difference with her inside the meta. Again, she's a niche pick when there's a couple of tanks. Shelly will always be the best option, but this isn't really a tanky meta, so don't really see that happen too often, other than that one game that Foot used Shelly. Next with the D tier, we have the twins. So Larry and Laurie are just terrible right now, and by far the worst they've ever been. They would always be the brawlers that I would recommend maxing out because they were super consistent, probably like 6 months plus ago. But now they're just terrible. They just get overrun way too easily. They need some big buffs to really compete in this meta. They're in the bottom 10 brawlers in terms of pick rates in terms of scrims, because if you pick the twins, they're not even that good into aggro anymore. That was kind of their whole gimmick, right? There was a thrower that could be good into like snipers and other brawlers on maps with a lot of walls. and then they could defend themselves against assassins and tanks where they need to be. They can't even do that, and then against other throwers, they lose that matchup as well. So they're just terrible, right? Dynamite is next in the D tier. Really, he could be F tier still in this meta, and that's like I'm giving him a little bit of saving grace because I think he still has last pick potential, but there aren't really that many brawlers that could be a great last pick into. There's just far too many brawlers that have so many capabilities. I know Dynamite recently received, I think, a reload speed buff, but that didn't put him in the meta. He's actually the second least played brawler in scrims right now, but again, I think a little bit of saving grace because at least he's got this small niche in pit stop. Next up, we have Bo. So another brawler which is probably well, it is way more popular for the casual players, as I always say with Bo. He's good in hot zone, and he's like very average in hot zone in pro gameplay, but he's good probably for most people below masters in hot zone because people don't know how to safely detonate those mines. But yeah, there's just far too many brawlers, assassins, so many brawlers can get close to Bo and just destroy him. He's not been good even since his buffies. Ziggy is next in the D tier, so this probably pains a lot of Ziggy mains because Ziggy was a fantastic low-key S tier brawler before his nerfs, but he was too broken. You could just land every single shot no matter what and cycle through your supers like crazy. Now, it takes a lot more skill to hit his shots, but you don't actually get the reward for it. Like, it doesn't really deal that much damage. His Electro Shuffle isn't really as spammy as before. It takes a long while to get his super as well. Even as a last pick in some situations in hot zone and a brawl ball, you just rather go another throw that's gonna get more value out of their super and just get it quicker. Juju is next in the D tier, so Juju again another brawler where as a thrower, there's so many throwers down here in the D tier, but with Juju, she used to be really good still, well not really good, but at least be able to defend herself against assassins and tanks. But now tanks with all of these hypercharged buffies and just everything going on, even when she gets her hypercharge super or just her super in general, she still can't defend herself because even, for example, like a BB used to be able to do okay into BB once you get the slow install power on the BB. You could slow her and keep your distance. Well, no, now she can just pop a hypercharge buff and just run at you in a straight line, and there's nothing that Juju can do to defend herself. She's good on parallel plays, maybe layer cake, and that's about it. Maisie remains in the D tier, so she's permanently stuck here. She's been here for over a year now, I believe. She's just not that great. Again, in the right setting, there is a chance to use Maisie if you're like OP, maybe a few other brawlers that just have some weird obsession with Maisie. She can work because she can hit hard and she's got good defensive capabilities, but it's just the fact that in most situations she'll get outranged. I don't know, people can bait her super and her gadget. I don't know, she's just too risky to use. Wait, hold on a second. Finally, we are reaching the brawler that is causing all of the drama. And what, I was right? Okay, let me just get some things straight. In my last tier list, I was rage baiting a lot of you guys, putting GG dead last. I would have realistically put GG at the bottom of D tier or even in the F tier still, which wasn't the worst brawler in the game. That was just clear rage bait, just to get some people getting angry in the comments. But I'm still right. GG is not above the D tier. She's just not, okay? I know what you guys are saying, you know, Gusta's putting out some good content with GG. He's a good GG player probably, but this is ranked. I can, if you know my gimmick and you've watched my live streams for a long time, I play the worst brawlers in the game and I can still get wins with them in Masters 3, etc. You know, I can get wins with Sam, and even I'm a terrible Sam player, for example. But GG, the data backs it up. Here you have it on the screen right here. She has a 20% win rate in scrims right now. She's in the bottom like 15 in terms of pick rates. She's not good, guys. She really isn't good. Yes, she has a niche. If your enemies are idiots and they pick two brawlers with multiple projectiles, yes, she can have that dangerous niche situation, but this is a pro rank and pros can still counter a GG easily. You know, I don't think I've really had a situation where I've struggled against a GG, even as an 8-bit, because as an 8-bit you can either just use the teleport gadgets, teleport away, or you can use extra credits as well and just burst down a GG really fast. I don't know, I don't really struggle against GG. I just don't see it personally, and the data backs it up as well. Yes, if you guys are playing, I don't know, around Masters 1 and below, GG can seem a lot better because people don't know like how to counter her effectively. They don't know like to group up, and when she teleports in, you can shred her pretty easily. They haven't got eyes to be able to counter a brawler like this. So I've been waffling for a long time, but GG's easy. Like, there's just no chance she's anywhere close to the C tier, guys. 20% win rate. I won this war. Finally, I've got the data to prove it. Next one in D tier, we have Clancy. So Clancy, again, super niche brawler where in the right matchup, if there's multiple tanks or at least one tank, he can feed super off. But I think he's only really good maybe hot zone. that range nerf really did hurt him a lot. It just takes him too long to get his 3rd level. Next in the D tier, so I think Pam's been stuck here for a little while now, and Pam is a good underrated pick in Hot Zone, but I still think the Hot Zone meta doesn't really suit her that well, because you've got like Lou and 8-Bit who are resurging up the meta. You'd rather just go like a brawler like Meg that can sit onto the zone. You've also got the Hypercharge glitch, which doesn't allow her to heal as much as she should. So all in all, she's not that great. Next one, the D tier, maybe it's a bit of a surprise pick here. It is B. So I've been saying for the longest time, I've just not really been seeing B too much in competitive play. In my ranked games, the only people that were playing B were these hackers. So I think for the longest time, B's been like a C tier brawler at maximum. I'm just going to put her in the D tier. I don't really see a reason to pick B. Again, if you're playing B and you're below Masters, I mean, even in my ranked games, I could probably pick B and carry, because she's got that pop-off carry potential still, because she deals a lot of damage. She's got like a really good hypercharge, but it's still the fact that in most situations, you just rather go a different kind of mid-range brawler. Like most time you can just easily counter a B. Next one in D tier, I've gone with Hank. So I don't get how you guys can say I'm like biased about GG, because I'm putting my brawler main in the D tier. There's no biases here on this tier list. Hank is not good. It's sad for me to say this, but there's so many high damage dealers at the top of the meta. Just think of Surge, just think of Griff, Meg, Lou, there's Lumi, there's so many that just counter Hank. He's probably not underrated, but he can be played on some Hot Zone maps like Open Business, Dueling Beetles, maybe paired with a Grey, but there's still too many counters to him. I have a Doug, so Doug is like a high D tier, low C tier brawler in the meta, because Doug's just all about pairing up and synergizing with certain compositions, and it's mainly a Grey composition, so you're starting to see a bit more Grey in the meta now, so you're starting to see a bit more Doug cheese again, but that's really his only niche. Trunk is next in the D tier, so Unk is sad at this, because again, I've got a little bit of a bias towards Trunk, because, you know, I am Unk, but Trunk just really doesn't serve much of a purpose in this meta. Again, he's a niche pick, and he can be good as a last pick into some brawlers like a Shade and Edgar, but these brawlers that he used to work into quite consistently have dropped from the S tier and gone down to the A tier, and some of them B tier as well. So there's just less reason to use Trunk. He's got a really strong hypercharge, and yes, he's usable in some situations, but he's not really being played much by the pro. I have gone with Bonnie, so I feel like I might be a little bit harsh on Bonnie here, because when I looked at the data, she's near enough in the top 50% in terms of pick rate, but I'm yet to really see it, and I don't know, I don't really know where she excels in. Maybe, again, I've got to do a bit more research on this and maybe play her a little bit more in ranked to really get a feel, but maybe if I was being harsh, she would be like C tier maximum. But I think the damage buff has obviously worked wonders to her. So C tier, D tier would be good for her. So now I'm going to be moving over to your C tier brawlers in the meta. So often these C tier brawlers are just pretty balanced, maybe a little bit underwhelming, but by no means if you're in the C tier it means that you're bad. I mean, maybe an exception here for Amber. So Amber, I feel like she's going a little bit under the radar here. She's not actually being played hardly at all in scrims. I think she's in the bottom 30 brawlers in terms of picks, and I have been saying for a couple of months that Amber has started to fall down the meta a lot. There's just way better options right now. You know this when in pro play she's just not being, like, she used to be the super versatile brawler that people would always go. She's not really being played that much. The reason why she's even being played in NA and that NA thinks she's half decent is because on high ping she can still be an effective brawler, but we're not taking that into consideration here. Amber pretty much on the cusp of D tier here. I went with Jessie. So Jessie, I'm a little bit torn on her, honestly, because when I first picked her up after I played Brawl Stars after vacation, I was like, okay, this Jessie buff feels really great. Like, I'm hitting every single shot, it feels like. But then I quickly realized, wow, there's just so many counters to Jessie. She's just so vulnerable. Even though she can hit more shots, her shots really lack the damage. So I think bottom of C tier is pretty fair. The pros are playing her quite a bit more. Like, I think she's near the 50% roughly in terms of pick rates. But I think she's only really good in like Hot Zone and as a later pick. So if they buff her damage or give her like another meaningful buff, she could start to become meta. Eve is next in the C tier. So Eve is always one of these brawlers where people kind of forget that she exists, and then she starts to become like a half decent brawler inside a draft on like Safe Zone, Kaboom Canyon, Bridge Too Far, and then people realize, well, she actually doesn't really do all too much damage and she gets overwhelmed easily. So a little bit stuck. She could probably be D tier as well. There's just not much about Eve. Draco is next in this C tier, so Draco definitely needs a little bit more love. He's starting to drop towards the D tier again because there's just far too many counter options for him. You think of his one game mode where he used to thrive on. There's so many counters to him. Like, you'd rather just go a Damien if you want to create some space, because Damien could probably just run up to Draco and super him, fly him in the air, and he's dead. You've also got like Lou in the meta, you've got 8-bit that can shred, Meg. There's so many high damage dealers in the hot zone meta, and just in the meta in general, just doesn't allow Draco to thrive. Janet is next in the C tier, so same with the pretty much the past few metas, where Janet seems to be just an okay gem carrier, and that's really about it. There were a few cheesy things that got removed with her. I think like Doug's hype charge you can't no longer use with Janet while she's flying, so a few indirect nerfs to her. She's not really being played that often in gem grab either. She's just very mid. RT is next in the C tier, so I'd always pretty much cement myself putting RT in the B tier, because he was one of these brawlers where it came down to like tournament day and the big games, and pros would kind of go to RT because he's a safe option. If you hit shots, then you're guaranteed to get a lot of damage on the map. But I'm still not actually seeing in this meta in particular people pick RT that often. I think the problem is there's just far better brawlers that are way more consistent. You think of like a lot of Max in the meta now, you think of 8-bit, you think of all of these other bounty and knockout brawlers. They're way like higher up in the pecking order. Doesn't say that RT is bad, but it's just not pickable. Next, and Bull, since his base kit nerfs a couple of months ago, has really been suffering in the meta and has been pretty low on my tier list for a long time. And that's mainly because Bull is just seen as a last pick counter to a few certain brawlers when there's like, I don't know, a few low DPS brawlers in the enemy team, maybe like a Shade or that type of thing where you need a Bull to interrupt them. Bull can be good there. He can be a good late pick in some high situations, but that's about it. Since they nerfed his base kit rather than affecting his buffies, he just became pretty mid. Next up in his C tier, we have Gus. So Gus is about to get even worse once Wendy gets released in a few weeks, I believe, which, you know, at this point, this is probably the worst that Gus has ever been, right? I think he's always been a solid competitive brawler. He's always been like B tier minimum because he can land easy shots, his super's easy to use, easy to hit as well, his gadget can help confirm kills, but that isn't really the case right now because he's in the bottom 20 in terms of pick rates and scrims right now. I'd seen his pick rate fall for several months now. Every single meta gets worse and worse and worse. It's again because of these bounty and knockout safe brawlers. They have just more pop-off potential over just more higher in damage. You know, think of Piper's recent buff. They've got more pop-off potential, literally like a Pierce. You've also got like safe, like you got better support brawlers in these game modes as well, like Max. So there's just not much reason to use a Gus. Next up we have Sprout. So Sprout isn't being played as much as I maybe thought he would with the recent damage buff. I think this one could be a sleeper. I think still the main problem is as the metas develop, there's just far too many counters to throwers as it goes on and on, especially like a vulnerable brawler like Sprout. And with Nori coming to the competitive meta pretty soon, it could probably make Sprout even worse, right, if Nori's not banned out. But Sprout is still a great last pick. So I think he's finally like a last pick now, like especially when you face off against, I don't know, like a Ruffs and then maybe like another squishy brawler. Sprout is always considered an option again, especially when you think of like Jordan Beetles, you think of maybe a Hard Rock Mine or a few other maps like that. Sprout is a dangerous last pick, and the same goes for Squeak as well. He didn't receive any buff, but it's just more so that he's a dangerous last pick, but not as dangerous as he was before. Like when he's super dangerous, you know, Squeak is normally like a high B tier brawler, maybe low A tier brawler, because you've always got to consider him in draft. But it's more so, yeah, there might be a few good situations where you can play a Squeak, a few different maps, but there's normally a better last pick. That's the problem. Frank is next in the C tier as well. So Frank, again, is only really a good pick in the draft. He's good at countering like Ash. A few other brawlers, maybe like Bolt as well, pretty decent into. He's just more of a synergy brawler. Like, he's not terrible by any means, but again, he needs like either a good composition to help him, you know, like a Gray or a Poco where he can counter low DPS comps, or he's just literally there to counter a specific brawler. He's just not that good on his own. Jaeyoung is next in the C tier, and it pains for me to say because he's such an underrated brawler. He was played so much in Brawl Cup, and as the metas have gone on, there's just not much reason to use a Jaeyoung. He really lacks the damage in a bounty and knockout meta. But, you know, once some of these brawlers are banned out, he starts to become an okay option because at least he can apply pressure quite easily with his main attack. But he's starting to drift down, and if Wendy comes out, that might be the final straw. BB is next in the C tier, so another perfect last pick brawler because BB has that pop of potential, but she's more of a niche situation or a map dependent brawler or a certain composition. She still has that firepower. A few of the nerfs have definitely taken her back quite a little bit, but she's still got that double knockback. She's still got a very good hypercharge buffy and a good hypercharge super. So yeah, it's all about the match. Next up we have Ollie. So Ollie is a little bit underwhelming in most situations, but again, it depends on the synergy that you have with Ollie. So you need one or two things mainly with Ollie. You either need a max or a rough. So that's the main thing, because Ollie's hypercharge is still one of the best inside of the game, guys. You saw it in I think it was East Asia month. Yeah, it was Zeta versus Crazy Raccoon. They used, I think, a max and an Ollie, and then I think a shade as well. And just because their two hypercharges were just so broken, especially Ollie's, they were able to eventually just cycle so many hypercharges, and the opponents just couldn't deal with it. So he's good in that niche situation. He's good in knockout in the later rounds because they can eventually get his hypercharge and change the game. So yeah, he's literally a hypercharge brawler. Spike is next in the C tier, so I'm a little bit sad because I think I put Spike A or B tier in my last tier. I can't remember, but I put him quite high as a prediction because I thought with Spike, they're buffing his damage quite a hefty amount. So he might be just this consistent brawler, but I think most of the time with Spike, I don't know, like he's been played a fair bit inside of scrims, but it's just more, there's just always a better option in terms of the mid-range. He can still, as a somewhat of a tank counter, get a little bit overwhelmed. His buffies don't have the impact that they once used to have. He was very meta because Pop-Up and Cushion, for example, used to just delete people in an instant. So now it just takes a little bit while for him to get going. He's more of a counter pick option. Willow is next in the C tier. So Willow isn't by any means a bad brawler because she's in the C tier. It's more so, again, she's kind of restricted to certain game modes or certain situations. It's mainly Brawl where she's going to be good in. So she's a great brawler in Brawl because she's a thrower that can defend herself against aggros. That's always a good asset to have in Brawl because you think of Triple Dribble, Pinball Dreams. There's a lot of maps with a lot of walls. And then if there's any assassins or aggro, she could just super them, get easy goals, etc. But then you can still get countered by other throwers. There's a little bit of, she's just a bit meh when you think of the grand scheme of the meta. Buster is next in the C tier. So Buster, this is, again, I'm using this term a lot for C tier brawlers, but it's just the same thing with them where they're really used to counter certain brawlers. So multiple projectile brawlers, there's quite a few of them at the top of the meta. You think of 8-Bit, Max, you think of Griff, Meg, even Colt. There's a few other brawlers as well, Pearl, where Buster can be good on it in knockout and bounty, but again, it's only as that last pick. Other than that, he's like super underwhelming. If it wasn't for this meta shift, then he'd be down to the D tier. Tara's next in the C tier, so it's a bit sad that this reload speed buff didn't really help her out so much, and that is just mainly because of the nerf that she received some time ago. I think it was earlier in the year, where they changed the way that her super works. Like, it takes longer to get her first super, but then you can chain it a bit easier. I really like this buff, but it's still the reason why she's not that great. She's like bottom 25 in terms of pick rates inside of scrims, because again, she can only really be used to either counter some snipers maybe on some maps with her Shadows gadget, or only really on a map like Double Swoosh she's going to work out. I don't see her working out anywhere else. Fang is next in the C tier. So Fang did have that brief period, well, not really brief, I think for the entirety of the last update, he was like a solid high B tier brawler in the meta because there wasn't really a lot of assassins standing out really outside of like the Damians, and he was a great counter pick option to quite a few of the meta brawlers. For example, literally like Mortis, like the enemy would, Mortis was such an instant free win button, but then you could pick Fang into that in bounty and knockout. You can still kind of do that, but you don't see Mortis as much anymore. He still has his pop-off moments for Fang, but you normally need like a sniper, squishy brawler, and then a brawler that he can counter with his stun. So he can still be good in the right set. Next up, we have Mandy. So Mandy, I might be being a little bit too kind to her here because I personally, I don't have a vendetta against Mandy, but she's always one of these brawlers that really annoys me because in ranked, everyone plays Mandy because she's super easy to use. You just sit back, you just spam attacks. But I think she's back in the knockout meta a little bit. At the same time, she can be easy to counter. So I don't know, a little bit on the fence, and I'll put her in the high C tier here. This is probably the one where I would have put her towards the bottom of the C tier after looking back at it whilst recording. So yeah, I mean, she's just definitely not above C tier. She got a nice damage buff, but yeah, the pros are using her a bit more. Win rates are good, but I don't know, I just don't really see it with Mandy. Ali is next in the C tier. This pains for me to say because with Ali, the reason why she's so bad is because she's technically kind of got two bugs. If you guys didn't know, with like, there's like this, I don't know whether it's been a bug fix or some intended change with Brawl Stars, but it's like this speed stacking thing where it's affecting certain brawlers, but in particular Ali. So now Ali's speed doesn't stack, so you know, normally she could just destroy people easily with how fast she could get with her enraged, etc. But the speed doesn't actually affect her main attack length. So especially when you're on water or on grass, you could jump a lot, because typically with Ali you can just spam the enraged gadget or just be enraged all the time, and you're just getting on top of opponents and creating a lot of space really easily. But now you can't do that. But she's still good on the right map, so still good on like Layer Cake and a few other really bushy maps, but she's nowhere near the same that she used to be. She used to be like a low A tier brawler in my opinion. She used to always be such a dangerous last pick, but she's really niche now because of this book. Niger is next in the C tier, so I think Niger is the definition of a forgotten brawler right now. The reason being is because she's not rich, she's just such an average brawler, and that I think maybe might lead to some people forgetting about her, and she might actually be decent in knockout and bounty. That's her niche right now because she's good into other snipers, but she's still seen as a riskier pick. I don't actually think there's that many assassins in the meta, so you'd think, okay, Niger can probably still thrive a little bit, right? It's still like, okay, you can't really go Niger unless you last bit, because enemies can still go Bolt, they can still go Edgar, they can still go Mortis, which just destroys Niger even at her best. But the biggest nerf was absolutely the one that I was crying out for the whole time, was her super upon landing. They heavily nerfed that, or even like removed it, I'm pretty sure, but they heavily nerfed it. Before, it would like one-shot you. If it landed on you, it would just one-shot you and delete you, which was obviously way too unfair. But now her super doesn't really do too much. Maybe they should focus on putting a bit more power in her main attack or something like that. I think that'll be the way to go, because we don't want to go back to the old Niger. Yes, she's kind of forgotten. Melody is next in the C tier, so you do see Melody a fair bit in pro play, but I think you've seen her even less in this meta, because her whole niche for quite a while now has been heist. You know, Melody used to be a pretty underrated brawler in like Gem Grab Brawl back in the day, but ever since she received that health nerf, it's really put her back in the meta. She's only really used as a counter to Kaze, and just if you're really good Melody, you can still eventually get on this heist safe, but there's so many good defensive brawlers now in heist. It's hard as a Melody to really do that. You've got 8-bit, you've got Griff, you've got Star Nova, you've got Surge, Meg, Griff, Crow, Lou even. There's so many brawlers that make it very hard for a Melody to do anything in heist. Nani is next in this C tier, so it tends to always be the theme here with Nani, where over the past few years, Nani would get a damage buff, a supercharge rate buff, I don't know, some type of damage buff with Nani, and then should go up in the meta, you know, like back in the A tier, and then as it goes on, slowly down, and then we're kind of here at the point where Nani will probably receive a buff pretty soon, I would imagine. So Nani, yeah, just not really that great. Yes, you can still last pick a Nani into a Pierce or a Piper, but there's still so much going on in the meta where it just overwhelms Nani, just Max being the prime example. Next up we have Lily. So this again might be one of the first times in a long while where Lily has been C tier. I think upon her release she was pretty bad, and then ever since that she's been really strong inside of the meta. She can still work, don't get me wrong, as again a last pick option, but I think she's only really usable in, I would say, Gem Grab right now, and I still think Gem Grab is far better aggros than Lily right now. Her biggest safety is definitely her gadget and her hypercharge in pro play that can still be a nuisance to keep track of. But there's just so many high health brawlers at the top of the meta with good survivability, it makes it hard to find a good Lily game. Barley is next in the C tier, so Barley does feel pretty nice after the buffs. You're starting to see Barley come into the meta a little bit more since he got the, I think it's the projectile speed buff to both his super and his hypercharge. So that's nice. Barley is seen as a last pick option again, which is great, but he's still got the problem that there's a lot of assassins that can just easily get a free kill against a Barley. So that would always be the biggest threat to him. But yeah, like I said, you're starting to see him again in like the hot zones and the brawl balls as a last pick. And finally for the C tier, we have Sandy. So Sandy's for me floating in and around the B C tier. This is mainly because the pros really like Sandy in Gem Grab. As a Sandy, you can easily feed super off those aggressive brawlers and then turn the tides in your favor. But I think for Sandy, too matchup dependent, too map dependent in my opinion, and you need good synergy. You can't just play Sandy by yourself in rank most of the time, because you need like a Max or something to help enable you, and most of the time you're not going to get that support from your teammates. So for me, I think in and around here is fine. So now moving on to the B tier. So with B tier, Most of these are above average and going to be used in multiple situations. I'm going to be starting off because I was very wrong with G. Nah, we've already had enough of that. Penny. Penny is a solid B tier option. I feel like she's starting to go a little bit down in the meta again. She used to be the super underrated brawler, but now her options are a little bit more limited, but she's a great counter pick against Hot Zone. You think of a few gem grab maps as a last pick. She can be pretty dangerous. But yeah, she's got a few niche situations. Kenji's next in the B tier, and dare I say it might start going down to the C tier for the first time in Brawl Stars history. It feels like if you're playing the Nano Power game mode, you're probably like, Kenji's the most broken brawler of all time. He's got very strong Nano Powers, but this is ranked, and this is the pro meta. He's not really being picked too often. That's literally, look at the top meta brawlers, guys. Don't want to ruin the S tier, but you guys know most of them anyway. Think of your Griffs, you know, Crow still at the top. You think of Surge, 8-bit. These high damage brawlers are just destroying Kenji at the moment. There's a few maps where he can still excel on, but it's pretty hard to make Kenji work in this meta. Chester is next in the B tier, and honestly, I'm being a little bit kind to Chester here because the data is really suggesting he should be a C tier brawler at maximum. And after taking a look at a lot of his nerfs, I wouldn't have actually thought, even though there were 4 nerfs, they would have done all that much to him. But I just mainly think it's the meta in and around him. And I think in particular, I think it is like Star Nova, even Griff, just really been so easy for them to take down a Chester. You know, remove Chester's walls and then you can easily just out damage him. He still has the pop-off potential, Chester, but I think you're more so using him now instead of just a first pick into everything like in the previous update. He was just like Otis and Chester was everywhere. Now you don't see that. He's more of a reactionary pick in a game mode like Brawl Ball or Hot Zone to try and make a pop-off play with his hypercharge. Next with the B tier, we have Gale. So Gale is starting to see a bit more usage. He recently received a buff, which helped him out a fair bit in the meta. I think with Gale, it's just, again, all about your matchups and all about different modes and maps where he can excel on. You know, maps with a lot of grass he can be pretty good into. He's a great counter to a lot of those aggro brawlers. He's a great counter to Bolt as well, with both star powers and his super, his gadget. It's a really excellent counter there. But you're just seeing that in a good team setting with a lot of support. You know, one super with a stun can confirm a kill and can just allow you so much control. So Gale's being used a lot more. Moe is next in the B tier, and I feel like Moe is just perfectly stamped in the B tier because, but the main reason being is because he's a solid like pinch, like by pinch brawler I mean he can pinch around a wall by himself. He wall peeks really easily and consistently. He's got 2 decent star powers where one gives you extra damage, one gives you extra range, so he can outrange brawlers like Griff and a few other brawlers down the lane. But then it's when he gets his hypercharge super, it can change the game. It can guarantee you a goal in Brawl Ball. It can guarantee you a kill on the enemy gem carry and gem grab. So it's the reason why he's consistently beaten. We have Nita. So as the metas go on, she gets worse and worse, as I always say. But this might be the time where she's starting to fall down to the C tier. Her win rates are terrible inside of scrims. One of the lowest for sure. But with Nita, it's all about, it's mostly about matchups. I think the reason why she's suffering is because of Griff in the meta, and you've got like Ruffs that opens up the map. There's a few brawlers that open up the map. She's only really a good counter to a Damien, and in a bad matchup, it's like horrific. Like most brawlers in a bad matchup, they can eventually get over it, but with Nita, you can't. Like she really lacks the range in those tough matchups, and you just won't get any value. So that's the biggest problem, but her hype charge buffy is still very broken. Leon is next in the B tier. So Leon is just this perfectly balanced brawler, I believe, right now, where his gadget is strong, but by no means as powerful as before. Before, you could just throw a gadget and just get ultimate control for a very long time. Now, it's like you've got to time your gadget at a correct point, so really nice nerf there. He still has the pop-off potential. Like, he's got a good hypercharge. He can still, like, sneak up in the right matchup. He's just okay in most situations. He's probably better on, like, Bounty or maybe and like Hot Zone right now to just give you control. So it's most of his power is still reliant on his gadget. Cordelius is next in the B tier. So he's starting to become Loki an 8-tier brawler in the previous update because of how strong Damien was, and then looking for just absolute counter to some of the meta brawlers as well, like Mortis and Edgar. Those brawlers have gone down a little bit in the meta, but he's still such an ultra consistent shutdown brawler, so you can just never really put Cordelius below the B tier because of how powerful he is in a 1 versus 1. Next up, we have Kit in the B tier. So Kit is starting to become a little bit worse in this meta. That's mainly because of key synergies just getting a little bit worse off, but it's also because there's a lot more counters to Kit in Bounty and Knockout. So you might hear it again. Oh, 8-bit again. Wow, you've got Griff. These high damage brawlers are making it a little bit harder for Kit to work because, like Lou as well, you can't really go kit into these high damage brawlers, but then also people have figured out different strategies to counter the kit. You've got Cordelius, you've got Charlie, but you've also got Finks where you're able just to use other gadget that just completely removes kit off the back of someone, but you've still got some good synergies with kit. You've still got synergies with Bolt, new brawl in the meta. You've got synergies with Damien, so the power's still there and still good in gem grab as well with a hypercharge. It's just working a little bit less in bounty and knockout. Buzz is next in the B tier, so this is the best that Buzz has been for a very long time. There's a couple of reasons for that. Buzz is a great counter pick option right now in gem grab, in Brawl, a few other situations. It's mainly going to be gem grab though, because he's got that pop-off play potential. He's a great counter to Shade, Edgar, Mortis. You've got Ashe as well at the top of the meta. Even Damien can be a half decent counter too. So yeah, Buzz is being played a lot more, but it's thanks to his buffs. His buffs have really allowed him to have a bit more power. Berry's next in the B tier. So Berry, I couldn't honestly really say why Berry's just getting played a lot more in pro play. I think pro teams like Foot and Humble just have really good synergy with a Berry, but he can work against multiple brawlers. Like, he's not as bad as maybe some people making out. Like, he can be a decent soft counter to some certain brawlers, like certain assassins. Like, if you play well as a Berry, you can actually be good into them because you've got like good zoning with his main attack, you've got knockback, you've got super to dash out of the way as well. So he's like a good pop-off synergy comp. Like, if you get the right comp with Berry, you're just gonna 100-0 the enemy team. Next on the B tier, we have Sirius. So Sirius has landed at an okay spot right now. I think people were really overplaying how bad Sirius was, and I was starting to think, well, Sirius wasn't being played too much in scrims in the previous update. I was like, is he really this bad? But no, I think people were underrating him. He still has the power. His shadows are nowhere near as strong as before and can be dealt with a lot easier than before. But it's still, he has certain matchups, especially into high health brawlers, where he can really farm off them. The biggest one being Damien. He's one of the biggest counters to Damien and Meg as well. So if he can feed off these brawlers, he's going to be pretty powerful. The biggest weakness is that other throwers can be half decent into Sirius, but there are a lot of damage dealers in this meta. But he's still a thrower. It might not be like the highest damage thrower, but he's still a thrower, so he still has a lot going for him. Charlie is next in the B tier. She's not as much as a counter pick option in the meta. In fact, she used to be in the previous one, but she's still a solid option. She's definitely going down and down. She's definitely trending down. I would definitely say if she wasn't to receive a buff, she'll be C tier in the next meta. But for now, she's still alright. Like, she's got her spiders that can be good into snipers. You know, she's still great shutdown with her super, but she's being used a lot less. Angelo is next in the B tier. So again, Angelo is dropping down. I'm just seeing a lot less Angelo. The pros would always be accustomed to go Angelo, even on bounty and knockout, because it's a sniper that can jump away, that deals a lot of damage, that's pretty fast. But there's just still too many bounty brawlers right now that can overwhelm Angelo easily. Just think of, well, you've got like Brock that also just does a better job as a sniper now than Angelo. You've got your Pearls, you've got your Bolts, you've got Nori coming into the meta soon, you've got Damien, Max, all of these aggressive brawlers that Angelo can't deal. Next in the B tier, so with Lola and my previous tier list, like I said, I did that after a couple of days after the meta. I didn't foresee that brawlers like Pearl or maybe like Meg would be, well, I think Meg would be very strong, but basically Lola has some really good matchups, which has allowed her to become a much more meta brawler. She's not close to the A tier in my opinion. She's just a solid B tier brawler because she's very good as a gem carrier into Max, into Pearl. She's half decent into 8-bit. She's good into Meg as well. So that's the reason why Lola's being played more. These brawlers are also played a lot in Hot Zone. So yeah, she's being played as a counter to these meta brawlers. Belle is next in the B tier. So it's B tier for Belle. You literally may as well rename this the tier that Belle's normally always in. And again, it's just because she's always this good option in draft. Like, she's good in some high situations when you're unsure on what to go. She's good in some bounty situations because of her traps, so she can be very hard to push into. She's just okay. She's just average. Finks is next in the B tier. So Finks has definitely dropped from the A tier to the B tier in my opinion, because you don't really see him as much anymore in Hot Zone. So it's not to go to say that Finks is bad. There's just better options most of the time. Go to Hot Zone, you've got your Megs, you lose, your other control brawlers that are just going to overwhelm things a little bit too much. But again, he's like a good off-meta, well, not really off-meta, like a good pick in Kaboom Canyon and a few other heist maps. Like, he's still got this place where he's good in. It's just most of the time there's better options. Carl is next in the B tier, and I think Carl is the perfect sleeper pick in this meta in my opinion. He got that damage buff. and it's quite substantial. It doesn't go to say that he hasn't got his clear weaknesses in the meta, but he's got that power again, where before he'd been struggling for a little while. He's good in heist again. He's just good everywhere. That's the type of brawler Carl is, right? But people are sleeping on Carl. Next up, we have Poco. So this is the brawler that always confuses me the most when I'm playing ranked, and say if I was only to put my ranked glasses on, I'll be like, Poco isn't really being used that much because he's more of a synergy brawler. But Poco's like the perfect, like I said, support brawler. He's a support brawler, perfect synergy brawler, but also perfect counter brawler to a lot of the top meta brawlers. Think of Lou, for example, a great counter. Think of Max. Good into Max because Max has low damage. So Poco can be used for that reason, but again, you need to be using it in a supportive setting. It can be great in some Brawl maps, great in some gem grab maps, even Hot Zone in particular. He's one of those good counter pick options. Next up, we have Colt in the B tier. So Colt is a little bit of a weird one for me because for most pros, you would still pick him pretty early on in the draft in heist because he does a decent amount of damage, right, if left alone on the high safe. But for me, I feel like you can always counter a Colt, but he's still good enough to be played. Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one. The data still suggests that Colt is definitely like near enough an A tier brawler in the meta. Like he's still used quite often in pro play when, for example, they need a bit of a wall break to either counter the opposition or to, well, you think of Colt, you think of Brock. So Brock is a great wall break, but sometimes if you pick Brock too early, he can get countered because of how easy he is to juke at mid-range. But with Colt, you can still, you can open up the map if needs be, but if you don't need to open up the map, you can still play Colt and you can still be good counter to assassins, for example. So you got that flexibility with him in draft, where some pros go him in knockout, for example. So that's why he's still like a solid B tier brawler. Next up in the B tier, we have Gray. So I might be being a little bit harsh on Gray here. Could be a low A tier brawler as well. But the main reason I'm not putting him in the A tier is because I'm still not seeing him that often in bounty and knockout. Before, when Gray was always A tier, like you pretty much had to ban Gray most of the time because he'd just push up to the wall, he'd gadget you, and it's just annoying to deal with. But right now, yeah, he got that big damage buff, but it's still actually just more to do with his overall synergy in the meta. So I don't think the damage buff really impacted him that much, if I'm honest, because his main attack is still very hard to hit, just hits a little bit harder. It's all about his synergies in Hot Zone, especially paired with any sort of tank or M's in particular, and he can still be a nuisance in gem grab as well. So yeah, Gray, he's good. Mina is next in the B tier. So with Mina, you can definitely feel the nerf, and the problem with Mina, I think, isn't necessarily her, because I still think she's a fantastic brawler. If you're a good Mina, you're still going to cause a lot of pressure. You're still going to get some really nasty combos that good players can pull off all of the time, especially Angel Boy. But the meta doesn't really favor Mina too much. These damage dealers are making it harder for Mina to approach. Again, your 8-bits, your Griffs, your Megs is getting hard to approach brawlers now because they can just burst you down so quickly. But if these brawlers are banned out, she can still work, so B tier is fair. Colette is next in the B tier. So I was a little bit, before going into making this tier list, I was thinking, where is Colette really standing right now? Some people think she's very weak. Some people think she's still okay. I think Colette is kind of at a perfectly balanced point, in my opinion. They added an additional nerf. I thought she was still going to be like an S tier brawler in the meta, but they actually nerfed her Na'ar gadget with the last balance changes, I believe. So it's only 0.5 seconds now for Charm, which really doesn't give you much opportunity to like combo a super or combo with your teammates, but it's great. That was definitely needed in terms of a nerf, but she's still good. Like, her hypercharge is very effective. If you watch the China mainland region, their like final LAN that they do at the end of every year, you've seen the Colette into an 8-bit or into a Meg. Great counter into these two meta brawlers, so that's why Colette is still very relevant. But again, like, you normally need a decent matchup or you need heist to make Colette work. And moving into the final brawler in the B tier, I have gone with Piper. So I was going to originally put Piper in the A tier, but I kind of reconsidered that you still, as a Piper, need a good matchup. By that I mean, like, you still need another sniper to face off against, and you've probably seen a little bit too much of other brawlers in the meta, making it a bit harder to make work with Piper. So for example, literally your Maxes, your Megs, and these brawlers that can create a lot of pressure. It can be pretty hard for a Piper, but boy does she hit hard since her damage buff. Boy is she definitely back into the meta. She can really pop off. Like, if you're a type of brawler, if you're a type of player that needs to hard carry, Piper's always going to be that type of brawler. So you've seen her a lot more, but not enough to be an A tier. We'll be moving on to your A tier brawlers in the meta. So these are some of the best brawlers inside of the game. They're going to have such pop-off moments. They're going to be able to excel in multiple situation maps, etc. Starting off with Shade. So Shade received a big nerf to his hypercharge rate with the update, I believe. But that's not stopping Shade in this meta. He's still, if you watch in some regions, I think East Asia in particular, I think NA as well do it. I think EMEA have stopped doing it as much, but they're just picking Shade as a first pick. You know, they're banning a few Shade counters, and they're just picking Shade no matter what. Because eventually with Shade, you're going to get his hypercharge. And his hypercharge is just disgusting. It deals so much damage. You pair it with his long arms. There's just so many maps and modes where, as a last pick, Shade is by far the most dangerous. He's a brawler that goes through walls. It's incredibly toxic. Next up, we have Mortis in the A tier. So he's starting to slip down towards the B tier a little bit here. But he's still a great, again, fast pick option. He's an assassin. You can't just blindly pick Mortis. Before in previous metas, before this update, you could literally pick Mortis as a first pick, you know, to collect the blue star and bounty, to just be the best assassin in gem grab. You know, you'd be able to blindly use him to counter, you know, your Ruffs, or even the reason why Otis and Chester was so popular, because Mortis was everywhere, for example. But now with Mortis, you got to deal with high damage brawlers, your Surges, your Griffs, your Star Novas, etc. So that's why it's a little bit harder to make Mortis work. But still, once you get hypercharge, you can pop off. Next up in your A tier is Jean. So Jean is just always not underappreciated, but kind of like boring brawler in the sense like, oh wow, Jean's in the A tier again. Yeah, it's because he's got such a strong super. There's not many brawlers in the meta that can dodge out his super. He's really consistent with his healing, with his vision gear, etc. Bounty knockout. He's strong in, blah, 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 blah. Next up in the A tier, we have Globert, Glowy, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm going to call him his full government name, Globert. Globert is incredibly underrated. And that's thanks to Freddy. No, Freddy was always on the Globert train, but I believed him. And I believe him even more now, because Globert is still an A tier brawler in my opinion. I still think the pros are underplaying Globert a little bit, because his win rate is nearly at 60% in scrims. Because once you get a good Globert game, it's literally over. There's nothing the opponents can do. There aren't really a lot of counters to Globert. There are a few at the top of the meta. Like, you got your high damage going to be your main counters. I know I've been saying high damage, blah, blah, blah. But most of the time in a Globert situation, you're going to ban those brawlers outright. It's only really Crow that can deal with him. But again, time again, in Heist, in Hot Zone, in any map, when the map's opened up, Globert can really be toxic, and he can suffocate you quick. Next up in the A tier, we have Otis. So Otis hasn't dropped off anywhere nearly as badly as Chester. And the main reason being is because Otis still has his good range about him. I don't think he received a nerf in the last update. I can't remember correct if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why he's gone down is just, again, there's just a lot better options than him in the meta, at the top of the meta right now. But he's still a bit consistent. You know, those bushy maps is still where he's going to excel in. He can still be a good brawler, but it's just, there's a lot of brawlers at the top of the meta that can counter Otis now. So Kaze is still in the A tier. Ever since her release, has she been lower than the A tier? I don't know. And that's mainly because the pros just know how to use Kaze correctly, and she could just get so much pressure. So Heist being the perfect one. Even in, this is probably one of the worst metas for Kaze to be usable on in Heist, because there's so many great defensive options, but she can still find her way onto the enemy safe. She can still get a lot of pressure. You know, she's literally a 2-in-1 brawler, so essentially she's going to get value no matter what situation she's in. And she's still a great counter to certain brawlers in other game modes as well. But it's mainly Heist is going to be the big one. Bounty as well, she's still okay on. She's still a great option. Rico is next in the A tier. So a lot of people, myself included, were quite harsh on Rico actually, because there were a lot of like nuances with his nerfies. A lot of unnecessary, I would say. Well, the main one is his second gadget that got reworked. I don't think that really makes sense. You got two damage dealing gadgets with Rico, which I don't really like. But anyways, he's actually not as bad as people make it out, because there's a really good factors about Rico. So yes, he can get countered easily, but I think with his multi-ball launcher, now that he has 4k health, you can use it as a great body block, especially into some brawlers that will normally counter a Rico, for example a Stu. You can defend yourself a bit better now, so he still has some defensive capabilities, and of course if you shoot it, you're going to deal some decent damage as well, not anything crazy. But then you've also got his star power buffies, which are not anything crazy, but they're actually alright. Like, if you get to below 500 health with his speed star power, like, you're not going to die, and you'll just be able to take over the whole map. But you don't get the opportunity too often. You still get an increased 2 seconds in your hypercharge duration, so it allows you to pop off more of your super. So He's still good, just a little bit more map dependent and a little bit more like you got to pick him towards the end of draft. Next up in the 8 tier, we have Ash. So Ash has finally returned to the top of the meta, and boy, is he again one of these more underrated brawlers in the meta. Ash is always underrated. He's like this definition of underrated because he's not played often, but normally in pro play he's always pretty strong. Again, that's not been the case for a little while now, but because he's got the tank trait, he's just excelled in the meta so much. Any type of low DPS control type composition, Ash is just going to completely take over. You saw that in the NA monthly finals. I mean, they literally, that's their like first child, Ash in NA. They'll go Ash no matter what, even if he's F tier. But yeah, they're playing him a lot. People start to see their true potential in NA because of how much he's being played. But he's just so strong now that he can just cycle through supers like crazy. He's just basically he has basically infinite rage. We have Byron. So again, Byron's the same old story, kind of like Gene, where he's just this ultra consistent brawler, and it's hard to deal with him because he can cycle super so fast. He just deals a lot of damage as a support brawler. Really easy to hit main attack. He can offer so much support, whether it be gem grab as a mid, whether it be in bounty or knockout. It's just Byron. He's just so simple and easy to play. We have Edgar. So Edgar is still one of the best brawlers inside of the game, even after a few nerfs. Reason being is just because of his hypercharge. His hypercharge is just so incredibly strong that is only like the only weakness to him is if you miss a gadget or miss a super. Sometimes it can take, like, if you miss that, it's not game over, but it's like, wow, you have to wait 20 seconds for your super, 20 seconds for your gadget to then re-engage again, so that can be frustrating. But it's also because Edgar is he's like one of these brawlers that just hyper counters so many brawlers inside of a game in a 1 versus 1 setting, right? That's always been the thing about Edgar. It was just more so in previous metas, he didn't have the chaining ability, but now with his hypercharge, he has that chaining ability with his fisticuffs Buffy, so he's still very strong as a last pick. Pierce is still here in the A tier, and Pierce will forever be an A tier brawler in my opinion because he just does a ton of damage, and it's just all about the person that uses it. If it's in a pro setting, these pro players are going to know how to abuse that last shot that has a bigger projectile size, that deals so much damage, that slows. His super is one of the best in the game. It deals so much damage, but his hypercharge is just unmissable. They can one-shot so many brawlers, and it's just really hard to push into a good Pierce. Brock is next in the A tier, and Brock is still a fantastic option after his nerfs to his buffies. He's a great brawler right now. So the annoying thing with me with Brock is that if you're playing Brock outside of, you know, his bounty, heist, and knockout, you've got to use him as a later pick to counter. So yes, he can be a good counter to 8-bit and a few other brawlers at the top of the meta, but you can't just pick Brock early in draft. So that's my biggest annoyance because he's got his clear counters, but in the right matchup, he's going to excel. He's got a really good hypercharge Buffy. His rework super is really good right now as well. People are underrating it. Both star power buffs are great with him. Both gadget buffs are really great with him. Like the double knockback is excellent. His rocket fuel is very good, whether you break it up in a wall or dealing damage. There's a lot of great things about Brock. Just don't pick him early in gem grab or brawl. Next one in the 8 tier, we have Meeple. So Meeple is still super easy to use brawler right now in the meta. He's probably not, well, he's still very strong, but not as strong in the previous meta, right? Because there's a few other brawlers that can counter him, but it's still Meeple at the end of the day. He's still this brawler that can pick into pretty much everything, and that's thanks to 2 great gadgets. It's really easy to hit main attack, does pretty high damage. His super is very strong, very quick charging, and his hype charge is very good as well. So many great things about me. Ems is next in the 8 tier, and I'm surprised at this point how long Ems has stayed into the meta, because before Ems' buffies, she was permanently stuck in the D or F tier in my tier list for years and years, because she was always seen as a brawler that just got easily outranged. She could never really close the gap onto good players, but now there's some good synergies with her, interesting synergies, because she's got this star power buffy that gives her that immunity, that allows her to win a lot of 1 versus 1 interactions, that allows her to push up in certain situations, but especially her synergy with Grey in Hot Zone and a few other maps and situations. She's devastating to deal with in the right situation. Next up in the A tier, probably the biggest change in the meta has to be Pearl. So Pearl, well, it was coming. I was speaking about it in previous tier lists. It was coming. She was getting nice buffs, and she was going, and she was just waiting for that one final buff for it to click. And now it's the best she's been in a very long time. Even when she was a consistent B8 tier in the meta, she's probably better than them, because now she's being used as a gem carry and gem grab. And I'm saying this because she's really great there, because she has a lot of health. She can ramp up damage really fast now, thanks to a lot of buffs that she got. and her super can help her defend herself against those tankier options. She's great in bounty, she's great in knockout, she's being used in so many situations, guys, trust me. She's insane right now. Definitely the sleeper pick. So next up in the A tier, we have Stu. So this might be thanks to a bug, I believe, with his speed zone turret. It's given him and his teammates a lot more speed than it should. I don't know where these bugs are coming from and how they're not fixed quicker. But anyways, this is allowing Stu to be that much better. But I think the meta around him has definitely helped. You think of some of the top meta brawlers, he's a great counter pick option into so many of these. Like Griff, for example. Like he can be good into Max. He can be good into Star Nova. He's a great 1v1 brawler, and he's in the top 7 in terms of picks in scrims right now because he's so versatile. You can play him anywhere. So now moving into the next brawler in the A tier, which is Bolt. So Bolt is a fantastic last pick or later pick in the draft right now. And this is, again, one of the more annoying things that you can't first pick a Bolt, guys. You just can't, because assassins and tanks, unless they're just abhorrently broken, like he was on release, you can't just play him into everything. So yeah, Bolt is a great brawler, but he still needs the right matchup and he still needs to be played correctly. So the reason why I really like Bolt is because you can just run around the map, build up his super, and then if you pair his star power with his super and go in at the right time, you can deal a lot of damage and no one can interrupt your speed, which is very, very broken. But it requires some competent teammates, because a lot of times you're leaving your teammates in a 2 versus 3 situation. It requires a bit of synergy as well, and timing. So yeah, you've got to be the right Bolt player to make it work, but that pressure can be relentless and it can be really annoying to deal with. Next up in the A tier, we have Lumi. So Lumi is still one of the best brawlers in the meta right now. Slightly bit like harder to counter in that sense. I know you might be thinking, well, she's not S tier anymore, because normally you just pick a Lumi, and then if the enemy went an Edgar or a Mortis, you'd pretty much just lose because they just jump onto you all the time. But you've seen those brawlers less, so yeah, Lumi's a little bit safer, but it's just normally like more powerful options. That's why she's not S, by the way, but she's still very powerful because she deals a lot of damage. Her gadget is still very frustrating to deal with. Her super is a guaranteed kill. It's just hard to push into a Lumi. So in the A tier, we have a Ruff. So if you take a look at the pro data, because normally they ban out a lot of the high meta brawlers, so Ruff's is normally this great synergy brawler, but it's just so flexible. He's the second most picked brawler in scrims right now, which goes to show his true power. Not enough to put in the S tier, because also you got to take a look at data and think, okay, he's not powerful enough to get banned out, so he could be low S tier. The reason being is just, it's mainly his main attack so easy to hit, does a lot of damage. His super can break open walls, got 2 great gadgets, depending on the matchup, right? And he can synergize with pretty much every brawler in the game because his hypercharge is so broken. You put your, like, there's so many brawlers with powerful hypercharge now, and especially with hypercharge buffies, it just makes him the perfect synergy brawler. So yeah, he's great. And lastly in the A tier, I have gone with Lou. So I just barely had him missing out on the S tier. He could easily be S tier as well. There's not much point debating it. It's just, he's so strong. So the reason why Lou's so strong, they gave him a projectile size buff, which was definitely too much. You just land pretty much every single shot with him, I think. Maybe outside of my gameplay. But anyways, Lou, he's just a perfect shutdown brawler. He's the best brawler inside of Hot Zone right now. That's always a given when Lou is good. You know, his hypercharge is always like a guaranteed kill, but you're just able to cycle through supers way easier because your shots are just easier to hit. You're using him pretty much everywhere right now. He's just so good. So those were your A tier brawlers in the meta. Now we're going to be moving on to your S tier brawlers in the meta, which are the best of the best. And it's not a lot of brawlers that can come close to these brawlers. Starting off with Crow. So Crow is top 5 in pro picks right now, because he's just so good, even after the recent nerf. They keep trying to nerf him in different categories, but how many times do I need to say the reasons as to why Crow is so strong? I can't wait for the day when he's not meta, please. You think I have a propaganda against Gigi? That's nothing on the propaganda I have against Crow. He's so annoying. Crow is just annoying into everything, bro. Like, you would have thought those nerfs would have killed him. Like, well, a lot of people thought they would kill him. I'd never thought that. But you know what I mean? Like, it takes so much to make Crow a non-meta brawler because of how versatile he is. He has so many redeeming features. The main one I'm thinking actually is the slow gadget. It deals so much damage, making it hard to actually take down Crow in a 1 versus 1. But he's got so much to like about him. You've got his healing debuff that he gets. His hype charge is still very good. He just pokes people for fun. It's just impossible to miss his main attack. It's Crow. He's annoying. Next up in the S tier, we have Meg. So Meg is top 4 in pick rates. Meg is still so insanely strong. Yes, Meg does have her counters, but she's still insanely good, and especially in a situation where you need a lot of pressure, Meg is always that brawler. So you've got a lot of strong things about Meg. One really strong thing is her toolbox gadget. Once you're low in health, you can use a toolbox gadget to hit a brawler or just push them back or whatever, and then all you need to do is just hit one shot, and then you're back into your Meg again, so you can just cycle. It's just really hard to kill a Meg. That's the reason why she's so good. Her hypercharge is very strong as well. Yeah, it's all about survivability. Next up in the S tier, we have Griff. So Griff is the third most played brawler in scrims right now. And you might be thinking, why is it so low down in the S tier then? That is because it's just, in my opinion, better brawlers, but you guys can debate me as well. The reason why Griff is so good is because of his star power change. So now it takes just as fast as normally as it takes 3 of his salvos to come out. You can shoot out 4, so that means more damage for no net negative. So obviously you just take the damage buff, right? And then you pair with a really strong star power buffy. I believe once you have full ammo, it does deal a lot of damage. You've got his piggy bank gadget that's able to break open a lot of map. You've got his hypercharge buffy, which allows him more time to cycle through to his hypercharge supers and just team wipe. Griff is just so hard to deal with, and it's mainly just because of his damage. Like, if Griff gets within range of you, he's going to kill you. He just deals so much damage now. Damien is next in the S tier, and Damien. Damien. Where do we even start with this guide? What do I even need to say about him? He's got 2 strong gadgets. A wall gadget, which is very toxic on the right map. He's got a heal gadget, but it's just guaranteed to get value with. It's all about his super. Yes, he has some counters when you super in onto somebody, but it's just instant pressure. You just constantly cycle your supers over and over again. He's such a brain-dead brawler when you think about it. Will we ever have a meta without Damien? So now moving into the 6th best brawler in the game right now, I have gone with Nori. So this is wild to say because Nori, in my opinion, is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. Not yet available in ranked. I don't know when Nori is available in ranked. But every time I play ladder, I'm just like, oh, Nori's here. Oh, I've lost the game because of how it was very obvious when I saw Nori come out in sneak peeks and after playtest, and I was like, yeah, Nori's just broken because you've got the ability to just literally fly over from one side of the map to the other without much like negative. There's no negative about it. It's so fast to just fly over walls and just take up so much space. So think of heist. It's literally like, how are you supposed to defend a Nori? It's like Miko on steroids. Like, it's just so hard to deal with. And then you've got like 2 really good gadgets. I think the gadget that stuns someone is actually really underrated. You've then got like a good super that can get some good pressure, but it's mainly about the slash mechanic. Like, you can slash through brawlers really fast, and then you can just get so many quick combos, and people just still don't know how to play Nori to the full potential. So I think once Nori gets into the pro players' hands, it's just going to be game over. So now moving into pretty much rather 4th or 5th best brawler when you take a look at things, because I'm including Wendy in this list, by the way. It is Max. So Max is incredibly powerful right now. She is the most played brawler in scrims because people don't ban Max out often, because with Max you can counter Max as like well, not your Meg, sorry, your Lolas, your Pearls. There's a few other brawlers that you can counter Max with, but it's Max. You're going to get infinite speeds because of the recent trait change where just by moving you're building up super. You've got a broken gadget which you're able to dash twice with. Of course that's going to be broken. You've got 2 really strong star power buffies, and then you've got a hypercharge buffy. Just a hypercharge super alone is one of the most broken things about Max. It's just infinite speeds. How can that not be strong? Next up in the S tier, we have 8-Bit. 8-Bit, of course, is one of the best brawlers inside of the game. But no, he's not that good because GG can counter 8-Bit, right? No good player can still actually counter GG with 8-Bit. Trust me, I've done it before, mate. I've done it before. Been there, done that, mate. But anyways, 8-Bit is very powerful. Do I need to go through why? Let's go through it. So both gadgets are really strong, but his extra credits gadget is so incredibly broken. The bounce range is very toxic, but it's just the fact that you can shoot 2 pieces of ammo at the same time. How isn't that broken? And then you've got both star power buffies are excellent, by the way. I'm seeing everybody use both of them to full effect. Both very good. Hypercharge buffy very strong. Is 8-Bit. Once he gets set up, it's so hard to take him down. Yes, there are clear counters to 8-Bit. Like, well, GG's a half decent counter, but then you've got Penny, you've got Brock, and you've got some other brawlers that can be good into him, but it's still very hard to stop an 8-Bit. Next up in the S tier, we have Star Nova. Star Nova is incredibly broken right now. it's thanks to a lot of different features. So they definitely overbuffed Starnova for whatever reason. She was on the cusp of S tier even before her buffs, and now she's very, very good. So Starnova is really good for a couple of reasons. One reason, her main attack is basically impossible to miss. Once you get into range of somebody, you just spam auto aim 3 times and you're going to pretty much kill them, if not get them very weak. And her super is now very strong. Since they buffed it, you're able to win a lot of 1 versus 1 interactions with this super. Now, before, you had to pick and choose the interactions, which I actually really liked. You could still pop off with it, but it wasn't anywhere near as strong as it is right now. You've then got a gadget that you can use to fly and get out of sticky situations, use it to jump over walls, use it to be aggressive. It's so versatile. And then you got the recent hypercharge for Starnova, which is actually pretty broken, but it takes a long while to charge up. So that's the only negative about it. But yeah, Starnova, she's so good, guys. Like, she needs a big nerf. Moving into the best brawler in the game currently right now, which is Surge, in my opinion. So Surge is easily the best brawler for me. I mean, there are some counters to him because you can still keep your distance with him, but it's still Surge in the day. So the reason why he's so good, first one, you've got his gadget buffy with his power shield. You can use it to gain back a lot of ammo, which is broken, but then it also recharges when it gets hits, so it's only 9 seconds for a cooldown. That's like, I get why they introduced a buffy like that, because you'd think, okay, well, the enemies are going to be stupid enough to shoot you, right? But it's 9-second cooldown once you get this. It's insane. Anyways, then you move on to his new star power, which it was one of the best reworks of all time, in my opinion, in the fact that, like, you think of star power that was already so strong, and then they reworked it and it got even better. Like, it's just the fact that you just get a super for free every time. Like, you can just jump over a wall for free. Like, your biggest weakness, think of old Surge. Even if you keep your 2nd level, right, you don't have super, so in knockout and bounty you could still just pick a throw against Surge and you'll defeat him. But now you just keep a hold. Yes, you're going to be slow, but you keep a hold of your super, you can jump over a wall, you can click gadget, you can confirm kills easily like this. So that's why Surge is broken. You've of course got his hypercharge buffy, which is very strong, his hypercharge super, which is strong. But the main thing is his rework with his star power. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I've also put this tier list on your screen right here. So I put Wendy as the best brawler. Not currently in the game, but I think she will be the best brawler if they don't nerf her in some capacity. In her current state in the dev build, she'd just be completely like abhorrently broken. So yeah, that's just Wendy, what I think about her. Just wanted to throw that out there. She's just so strong because you're just constantly cycling through your shields and you constantly got shield yourself. Wendy, yeah, she looks broken to me. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys, and it's a tier list, like I said. Let me know whether I got anything wrong, whether you disagree or agree. I'm sure I'm going to get some angry people in the comment section about GG, but again, it is not a bias. I've asked pro players, I've looked at pro player data, I've played ranked myself. Like, bro, like, yeah, if you're getting a decent success rate with these brawlers, you just go ahead and keep playing them. The tier list isn't the be all and end all, but this is a tier list for the pro competitive meta, so you guys know who are the best of the best for the best players. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. See you later. Bye bye.